Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Modern Leader Way podcast, where I am joined by the delightful Amy Mills. Hi.
Hello.
And welcome to my crib.
I love the crib.
I thought, why not? Amy and I have known each other for what? It must be 5 years now,
Probably longer.
possibly a bit longer. And I wanted to have you on my last podcast, and it never
I think
happened,
so,
did it?
yeah.
And I said, "Oh, now is the perfect time to have you on because we've just gone through talking about stress and how stressful our lives are as
Yeah.
busy working career women, and how the importance of just taking that step back and like truly allowing our body to enter that relaxed state
Yeah.
to allow us to rest, restore, rejuvenate, and all the things. And I know you are an expert on this topic, especially when it comes to the physical body. So I wanted to start there, but why don't you give us a bit of an introduction to who is Amy Mills and what is it that you do with your work in the world?
So it's interesting because it keeps coming up for me at the moment anyway, with my own clients, which I always find that they teach me in the process.
Hmm.
So I have been on a journey for, well, obviously since I've been born, but always knowing when I was younger that there was more to life and yeah, realizing that I don't know, always questioning things and wanting more, never feeling like I belong somewhere or never felt settled. Not that I wanted to settle. It was very much like an ongoing battle in my mind. Working wasn't academic at all at school. So kind of just fell into, because my grandparents owned nursing homes, so I just fell into that care sector of
Hmm.
never really knowing what to do. So when I was in my early 20s, I went through a really toxic relationship. And at the end of that, that was a big awakening for me. And then,
Hmm.
like, all I can describe is like a big light bulb moment of like, yeah, you've got this power, you've got guidance, you've got support. And as I've gone on, more and more, I've realized that sometimes that's not even on this physical level.
Mm.
It's more like asking, like what's the lady that does asking you should receive?
Um,
Can't think what her name is anyway, but yeah, just realizing that there's just more to life than what we've been taught.
hmm.
So starting a journey into beauty, realizing that I absolutely love massage, just went down that path and kept going, went traveling, came back, wanted to work for myself, didn't want to work for anyone else, didn't want to be on a minimum wage. Just, I think as I've grown more into my 30s as well, I'm like,
Mm.
oh my God, I love my 30s. And now I'm like at the latter end of that. And I know I feel more excited coming in knowing that I'm going into my
Oh
40s,
my
like,
God,
yeah,
yes.
powerhouse.
Yes. I love that.
So yeah, just really learning more, understanding that the body is where everything lies. We can look outside for external validation or, thinking that we need to create something outside, but it's what we do inside that
Mm.
creates the outside.
Yeah.
And I think learning more and trusting more and sitting with things instead of being in our masculine and forcefully got to do this, got to do that, which is what, we're conditioned and
Hmm.
programmed to
Yeah, to
be
keep
like.
doing, yeah.
It's,
So, and business looks like today, is it largely massage and you do needling as well, don't you?
yeah, so I do a lot of massage. My main aspect is massage, different types of massage, sports therapy, more like it. I'm very intuitive in the way that when people come, I don't want to be forcing their body to do something that their body doesn't want to do. Like you said, everybody's stressed.
Hmm.
If that body's in stress, I'm not going to be like pounding it to the point where it's reacting to me.
Hmm.
So, yeah, when my clients come, I pick up on what they're feeling, work with that. A lot of dry needling, acupuncture. and healings.
Mm,
Doing more healings and events and stuff like that. So that's
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So you're kind of like bringing it all together, really, aren't you, in this lovely
Yeah.
bundle? And I think what was I was kind of grinning as you were talking in the earlier part of that introduction because you're a human design manifester, aren't you?
Yeah.
And so am I. So I've talked about this on the podcast. We've had someone on to sort of talk to us about what human design is, and I guess the one of the traits, the common traits that I see through all the manifestors that I do know is this kind of like real independence and knowing that there is like that way that I've been shown is not the way.
Yeah.
That 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 I'm on my own path and I've just got
Yeah.
to find it. And I think there is that sort of seeking energy in both of us actually that has led us to kind of doing more of a purpose work in the world rather than potentially going down a path that we later think, oh, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
Although it took me 20 years to kind of wake up to that myself.
It's the right time.
Exactly. And we're going to talk more about that because I've just loved watching you in the last year or so, especially, just kind of come out from the shadows almost and just be this like this like you're just flourishing into this just like grounded goddess of
Aw.
just brilliance. And so I want to get into some of that, but let's start with the massage because I must admit, like I've been to you many times for
Hmm.
massage, and what I really appreciate is like you're seeing the body, you're feeling it, but you're also sensing
Yeah.
what it's going through. So you will say to me something like, um, if it's my knees, for example, that are playing up, it's like, oh, so where are you like not moving forward?
Yeah.
And it's like, huh. Because you don't normally think about it in
Connect
that
that
way, right?
way.
Because we're
Mm.
again, because we're so busy, we're walking around going, oh, niggle here, pain there, just got to get rid of that so I can continue moving, like and
Yeah.
keep doing. So, what are some of the common things that you see on your bed?
So first of all, people come with pain, and I have to try and explain to people that pain isn't a problem. Pain is a message. You wouldn't leave your car and not take it to the garage. So why are you leaving this vehicle? Because
Hmm.
that is what it is. So these are like management lights or running out of fuel, and it's just helping people come out of their mind. Everything is coming from what we think, how we feel, things that have happened to us since we were younger. So they've created pathways, neurological pathways in the body to send signals and messages. So everything has stemmed from when we was younger. So that is the way that we then carry forward. So connecting to the body, everybody has the same emotions generally in certain parts of the body.
Hmm.
It's just looking at where that is. And we literally say the phrases of like bending over backwards.
Hmm.
Like we say them,
Carrying
but
the
we
weight of
don't
the world on our shoulders.
exactly,
Yeah.
but we don't actually connect that with real life.
Yeah.
But it's just helping people to become a bit more aware of that.
Okay, so so tense shoulders. Where are you carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, baby? Is that a thing?
We carry responsibility, like guilt. We carry a lot of stuff. Also, like your giving. So it's looking at the whole aspect of what we do from here down and
Hmm.
out. So you're either giving or receiving too much.
Hmm.
It's the actions that come with the emotions.
Right.
That makes
So
sense.
where else? The shoulders is one place. Where typically would you see like
So a lot of people carry here,
yeah,
hips.
hips, yeah.
But it depends because people also do certain things physically, say riding a bike or
Yeah.
running, which also I find are similar in the way that they think, or maybe something that's going on with their life. So a lot of
Mm.
runners will be running away from things, or it'll be their therapy of escaping. It's just bringing them into that awareness of like, what are you running from? Where are you going?
Mm.
Like, can you sit with what is coming up in your mind instead of having to be forcefully doing something? Yeah, it's great to be outside, but also can you allow that to just come up?
Mm. And I think that's the hardest thing, as you and I know, having done this for ourselves,
Oh
is the
God, yeah.
hardest thing to do, right?
Difficult.
But I think there's also if someone's listening and they're like, oh, hang on, I run. Like,
Mm.
what am I running away from? Like, how does
Yeah.
it land usually? And is there like do you find it easier to approach it from this like physical body kind of angle than you would do if you were, say, chatting to a friend and they were saying, "Oh, I'm sad and this is going
Um,
on."
I think maybe before when I first started, I was a bit more like not standoffish, but probably
Sensitive to,
not pushing. Because at the end of the day, it's my perspective, right? This
yeah.
is what I feel. It might not connect with other people. So
Hmm.
it's just planting little seeds into people.
Yeah.
And then if they're intrigued and they want to know more, then they'll ask me.
Hmm.
But yeah, just helping them become aware of that, I suppose.
Yeah. And you say it's like it is very intuitive for you. I know that. And also, I've pointed out this book, which is A Secret Language of Your Body by Inna Segal, which I have by my desk because when a client says to me, I've got some back pain,
Yeah.
or I don't know, I've got toothache, or my right wrist is giving me some jip at the moment,
Yeah.
I'll pull out this book and then I'll look through, I'll literally flick through and I don't know what's something knees, right? So this is a common one for me. So if I've got something going on with my knees, my left knee in particular, oh no, let's just do possible contributing factors: control, blame, judgment, anger, resentment, frustration, inflexibility.
So we
Um,
can carry all of those from, if you think about the lower back of the vertebrae. So the vertebrae is where all the signals come from. So the lower part of the back is a very big area. So we can carry quite a lot of, I mean, you can carry frustration and anger anywhere really, but it's where you're sending those signals to.
mm, so it's those heavier emotions, perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like you think about your legs is about moving forward, or like we said earlier, drive, motivation. Like you think about sitting in a car at traffic lights, it's that motion, stop,
Mm,
start, go, stop, start, go. And it's just helping people to think, yeah, where am I doing that? Where am I procrastinating? Where am
hmm.
I holding back?
Yeah, it's fascinating, really, isn't it? And then you've got the right hand side of the body and the left hand side, right?
Yeah.
So in here, it says the left hand side, if I had a left knee problem, it's likely to be issues with mother, sister, aunt, or a significant female in my life.
Hmm.
And the right knee would be issues with a significant male in my life. And it's just like, so it
It's interesting.
is interesting. So, what do you understand about the left hand side and the right hand side in the kind of metaphysical?
So everybody carries the same feminine, masculine energy. It's just, yeah, connecting to that part of those people. Because sometimes it might actually be ourselves,
Hmm.
which most of the time it generally is.
Hmm.
It is about us connecting, working for ourselves, but it is how we take on, because we take on our parents' perspectives and conditions, who are two separate people, and it's coming down to one person.
Mm.
So it's a very cotton woolly type of,
Entangled.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy because I went on holiday with mum and dad. Well, they're in Tenerife for 5 weeks and I went out for 4 nights. And it was the first time I think in my adult life that I was able to spend that time with them and stay detached
Yeah.
and not get drawn into some of the typical things that I see unfolding in their relationship, in their
Yeah.
life. And like I'm talking about very simple things like, you know, and they're generators. In human design, they're both generators. My
All
sister
right.
was also a generator. So growing up with a very different energy type to
Yeah.
three generators was where a lot of my condition came from as well. So I'm sure
Hmm.
you can relate to that. But just little things like, they wake up and they know what they want to do that day, and there's no budging on that. And it's like, no, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And or a funny one was they're not short of any cash, but they're
Yeah.
obviously retired. They're sitting on this pot of money that they're obviously thinking about how they
I'm managing it.
manage it. And they're not on holiday. They're just like they've moved their life to Tenerife for 5 weeks. So
Okay.
they're not treating it like a holiday where they're eating out all the time. And so they're watching their pennies really. Um, and we went to the beach on the first day I got there, I think. And we were coming off the beach. And this is another thing. Right, should we go then? Oh, okay. Off we go.
Yeah.
Right, because they decided in their head, or one of them had, that we were going.
No, like communication
No,
of is
no.
everybody
And like
done?
before we know it,
How's everybody
we've
feeling?
packed up the everything. Okay, you can come and say hello. Just have to mind the it's right, Buddy wants to get in on the excitement. And talking about grandma and grandpa. Um, and then I said, should we go for a bit? 'Cause some like I've got 4 days in the sun. I want to make the most of the sun.
Yeah,
I don't want to go back to
absorb
a
it all.
yeah, too right. So I saw them moving towards this one bar that they'd already identified on the way down to the beach. That's where you can get a pint for 1.95.
Oh, okay.
But to me, it was full of old people. They were all smoking.
Not the vibe for
It was
you.
not the vibe for me. It was in the shade. Every table was and chair was taken. I was like, should we find somewhere to? No, no, that will be more expensive down there. Here we and like my dad was ushering my mum into this, and
Really?
rather than get irritated and frustrated by it, I just looked at them and thought, that's who you are
Yeah.
in your conditioned way of being, and I'm not rather than
Trying to change it
or be affected by it. I just went along with it.
Mm.
But this is the first time. So I think even last year it would have irritated me, and I possibly would have said, "You go there, I'll go down here," or
Yeah.
something. And it's just like how fascinating that a lot of the healing I think that we do from, and we call it trauma. I mean, it's just like upbringing, right?
Yeah.
Is like where we get a lot of our trauma
hmm
from. It doesn't have to be what we understand as
A
trauma,
traumatic
a
experience.
traumatic event, or yeah, something traumatic happening to us. But one of the things that has been pivotal is in the healing is to be aware of what the body is signaling
Yeah.
to us in the moment that we are activated
Yeah.
in the past coming up.
Yeah.
So what have you understood about like how the body, like how we can move through that? So obviously you do it through massage and needling, and that's because someone's going, oh, I'm tight here, or I need a massage. They know that they need a massage, but you know they need
More.
more than that. So what's your understanding? How do you talk about what more they need?
So I'll always, after we finished our session, I will say whatever you do in between now and your next session is important. Don't go away and just think I'm coming back to be fixed because you're not broken, first of all. And there's so many tools that we can use to help us come into creating a calm nervous system because that's what it is, right? Like you say, things have affected us when we're younger. Okay, it might not have been traumatic, but to our body, it's coming out of safety. It's creating a traumatic experience to our body, however that may be. So like meditation or just sitting outside, like you've got the most amazing view. Just sitting there and watching that could be so healing in itself, listening to the birds, playing a bit of music, moving your body, allowing your body to move. For me, moving my body has been pivotal because it helps me to realize where I'm tight, where I'm holding on to tension. Yes, I love massage and I have massage because I preach it, but I also have to do other things like moving helps me come out and connect to my body because we're so disconnected. That's another thing why people are the way that they are. It's because of that disconnection. I mean, there's so many apps and things that you can use these days to create different tools, but even like sitting with cacao and just allowing myself to do a little ceremony to myself, come into my heart space. What am I grateful for? Even writing down 5 things that you're grateful for helps you come into a different space of like, actually, you know what? Life's pretty good.
Yeah, totally.
What am I moaning for?
Yeah.
Not that I moan, but sometimes it is a bit like, oh God, I've had a crap day, or this isn't going right. And it's just like, think about the things that are going right.
Oh God, yeah, we could all do that a
Yeah.
little bit more.
It's just using tools, multiple tools. And again, things that people aren't taught. We're not taught all of this stuff growing up. We're not taught how to calm ourselves or bring ourselves into peace. So yeah, it's just finding that.
Yeah, we're not taught how to be
Look
with
after
our
ourselves.
emotions. That, but although we hear that, you have to like restrict your calories, eat healthy, exercise. That's still what we're
Mm.
hearing, right, in terms of like how you look after yourself. And I think there is a big drive around like the importance of sleep, for
Mm.
example. Like
That is
I,
like the main thing, I think.
oh God, if I don't get good sleep,
No.
it affects the rest of my day in terms of like what I'm capable of doing, the energy I have around it, and
Yeah.
my mood and
Oh
everything.
God, yeah. Moody.
So it's so, so important. And this is, of course, when we're totally switched off and our body can actually recover, right?
Yeah.
And restore. So yes, it's not just about what we do, because I think this is
Mm.
the sort of era we're in is like this, I've got to be doing something, like I've got to be
Yeah.
fixing myself
Well, we're
or
human beings, so
yeah,
let's
exactly.
be a bit more.
Exactly. So what are the things on the other side? Because I think the doing bits is all where we're in our sympathetic nervous system, where
Yeah.
we are switched on. We're potentially,
Creating, doing something,
yeah,
being
and we're
somewhere.
potentially stressed or in a low level of chronic stress when we're constantly doing something.
Hmm.
And actually, our body can only switch off when we allow it to by sending signals that it's safe to relax and to
Yeah.
restore and all that kind of thing. So sleep is an obvious one
Yeah.
because we all do it. And then you get a watch that tells you your quality of sleep's not great. And
Yeah.
then you have to be careful that you know if you've had a good night's sleep or not, not just what the watch has told you, because I think that's another thing, right?
Yeah, I don't. I used to wear one, and then I stopped wearing them. And I think you can get obsessed because people
Okay.
are like about their steps and how they're sleeping and their
Hmm.
heart pressure, and it's just like if you don't acknowledge that, you don't think about it.
You're too right.
It's like another thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be
I've got it.
obsessed by.
Yeah, I've got it because I started running. So Adam
Yeah,
bought it for me for that, and I can track my progress with regards to
great.
fitness levels. But I have been here before where I've had it for the steps, and
Yeah,
it's almost like I forgot it one day. And
and you start getting.
it's almost like, well, it doesn't count then, does it? Well,
Yeah,
but how ridiculous is that? That you're
exactly.
freaking out about not capturing your steps in an app, but you still did the steps.
Yeah,
It's like, ah. And I
make it
think,
make
yeah,
sense.
it makes,
Make
it
it make
makes
sense.
um what was it? Oh, so yeah, being with our emotions, it's like another thing we're not taught. And I think that's again another piece for me is when I don't mean to sound like vulgar, but it's like when we can sit in our shit and not be fearful of it and not try
Oh
and
God, yeah.
distract ourselves from it. And like for me, eating, like
Yeah,
shoving food down
emotionally.
my mouth because whatever's coming up is too uncomfortable. But because it becomes a habit of feel uncomfortable emotion, eat something, it becomes automatic and you don't even connect the two together anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a
then,
suppressant. It's
yeah,
like
like
taking
anything,
medication,
like
right?
smoking
Smoking,
or
taking
drinking.
drugs, all of that.
Yeah.
It's you knowing your coping mechanism in that space of something rising.
Yeah.
So our bodies become like volcanoes, right? So
Hmm.
it's like erupting. And sometimes people get to that point where they just erupt. And
Or
then it's like
implode.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling. And I
Yeah.
had this conversation with a client this morning, and because she said to me, "How have you got where you are?" And I was like, "A lot of work." I
Mm.
said, "I used to be somebody that could not deal with my emotions
Mm.
because growing up, it was always, don't cry, don't do that, come
Hmm.
on, like
Yeah.
suppressing, suppressing, suppressing.
I always go to your
Tapping out
room,
of my feelings."
go to your room, like,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a lot of suffering in silence on my own as well, I
exactly.
think.
God, yeah, I'd be so angry and frustrated in my bedroom. Like I can remember like smacking my hairbrush, like just getting so angry,
Yeah.
thinking, why do I feel like
Yeah.
this? I couldn't cope with what I was feeling because I'm usually such a happy person, so I couldn't deal with that low point.
Mm.
But yeah, really working through that, and there was a lot to deal with, like abandonment, like depression, that just kept coming up and coming up and coming
Mm.
up until, I mean, I haven't had that feeling for probably about 3 or 4 years
Oh,
now.
amazing. So there's hope, right? If people are
Oh
listening
God, yeah.
and I was the same, like I used to feel anxiety like
Always. I
always.
used to not be able to sleep because I'd be like, this can't be my life. Like, there's more to life. If I died, would I be happy? And I wouldn't sleep all night. And then I'd be like going to work and then I'd go home and do exactly the same.
Mm.
And I'm like, why am I thinking like this?
Yeah, it's funny. My anxiety was slightly different. It was more around like, am I good enough at
Mm.
work, for example? Like, should I have? done something different, or could I
Yeah.
have done like been better in some way, or what was that person left
Well,
thinking
you were
of
in a
me?
high intensity job role, right? In
Yeah.
corporate. So
Yeah, and
what's that?
I had a therapist tell me I was operating at a very high level of high functioning
Mm,
anxiety disorder. So, and I see this in the women that come to me as well. Like, not that
yeah.
I'd ever diagnose them, but
No,
I can
yeah.
spot the traits because I lived it.
Yeah.
And now if I have an anxious moment, it's usually like I had this wave of like fear that Buddy's going to be snatched or something. Like
Hmm.
when I'm walking down the road and I see a white van pull up.
Yeah.
It's like irrational
Yeah.
and it's kind of extreme, but I can go, oh, there's
That's
that.
not real.
Like
Yeah. That
that
past
is
version.
that is few and far between now, and I can pull myself out of it. And I didn't realize that you could live with such almost peace without it sounding like too far out there, but it is like this peace of mind, this peace of body that you get to experience when you've actually
Experience the worst.
experienced the emotions that feel so uncomfortable to be
Yeah.
sitting with.
And it's realizing that all your thoughts aren't always real.
Don't
It's
believe
what we
everything you
create
think.
them to be.
Yeah.
So when you're living in that anxiety, usually it's worrying about future or what you have and
Yeah.
haven't done. Whereas, yeah, it's just changing that. I'm not connecting to that part. I done
Hmm.
it this morning actually. Something came up and I thought, no, I'm not being that person.
Mm. And I think there is that.
That's
So
not true. Stop punishing yourself.
yeah, but it's so hard, isn't it? Because it's a habitual way of being and thinking
Yeah.
and also feeling. And like I think oftentimes what I've learned is you can't necessarily do it all by yourself. And actually a lot of the
Oh
healing
yeah.
happens in a connection
Yeah.
with someone else. So whether that's laying on your bed in connection with you and your hands,
Yeah.
working your magic and actually giving that awareness of what else is going on, or whether it's sitting in therapy and
Yeah.
allowing someone to hold you in that emotion
Yeah.
and creating that safe space for it to come up and out.
Yeah.
And I've got one of my very good friends holds that space for me. She's a trauma psychotherapist. And
Hmm.
like, I don't claim to have had terrible trauma growing up,
No.
just like kid stuff, really.
Yeah.
Growing up stuff, bullying on the playground, perhaps a bit of power over by my dad, who was, this big masculine figure. Um, but the effects it has, it's like I've had to allow someone to play a role in my emotions coming up that I've not been used to,
Yeah.
i.e., it's okay to
Yeah.
cry if you need to. It's okay. Let's sit with this.
Hmm.
Let's be with it.
Open it up.
Let's go there. And as terrifying as it sounds, it's actually never as bad as it
No.
as you think it's going to be.
It's always, like I said about the pain, right? So we avoid pain. We
Mm.
don't want to feel pain, but actually you have to go into it. You have to change the narrative of that point of view
Hmm.
or what we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else then when you was talking, but I can't remember what I was going to say. What did you mention?
Loads. I think I was waffling for a bit.
No.
Sitting with, in connection with.
Yeah, so again, that's another thing, right? Because as we grow up, when we're in environments that we don't feel safe in, especially women with women, I
Hmm.
find,
Yeah.
there's like a barrier, isn't there?
Hmm.
So being around women, I mean, when we met, that was like for me, that was a big thing for women, for me to be empowered by other women
Hmm.
and feel safe and supported and not have that toxic,
Hmm.
backstabbing, nasty
Yeah.
energy of just not very nice. So
Yeah.
it is opening up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's finding the right people.
It definitely is. And I think when you feel safe. And
Oh
actually
God,
that's
yeah.
it's one thing that I think I've realized through doing like retreats and stuff, and
Yeah.
obviously the coaching that I do is that I think I do create that safety for other people. And what I hear most often is, God, I've never told anyone this,
Yeah.
or I've never been able to do this
Yeah.
with anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful testament. I'm sure that you get the same kind
All the
of, yeah,
time.
so lovely.
Yeah, and especially because I have a lot of men as well, and they're like,
Mm.
I don't ever tell anyone this. And I'm like, well, you're in a safe space. So it is creating that
Yeah.
for people. And I think it's so important, especially as we know that we didn't feel that when we were younger.
Mm.
So having that, yeah, I just find, yeah, it's important for people.
Yeah. So on the whole men thing, are there differences with men? Do you think there's like an do you think they open up easier when they realize that that's all they need to do, or do you think there's more barriers in there
It
for them?
depends on the person, I find. If men are a bit more in tune with their emotions and allow themselves, then yeah. But I don't know. Like I have people that have served before, so they're a bit more, I don't know, not reserved, but
Probably
very
conditioned to,
regimented. Yeah.
yeah.
So like hard, like you can see it in them that they're
Mm,
like,
I'm going to hold on to this for
yeah,
life. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have worked with, I know I speak mainly to women, but I have worked with men in my time. Obviously, I've worked with men throughout my career, and
Yeah,
I don't know, I feel like there's this, the kind of challenges and struggles are very similar, more similar and matched than we sort of would ever imagine.
yeah,
Um, Even down to the like psychological things that we go
yeah.
through and some of the emotional stuff that comes up. I think it is similar. It's just that boys are brought up to have even
Be
less
men.
to be men, yeah, to put that
I
hard
do
stone
find
paper.
that with men, they're not harder to break down, but because they're taught and conditioned to, be the stronger sex, and they take that on very well.
Yeah,
Too much.
yeah. So,
I do have a lot of compassion for men,
yeah,
especially in today's world,
yeah.
society.
And I do, and I think as women, we are really good at like providing support for each other and then for creating these little pockets of like safe spaces that we have done and
Mm,
like it's growing and growing, right? And I think we're starting to see it for the men too. Like
they're starting.
there's um there's a few things. A man up, I think is
Yeah, I shared that the other
yeah,
day.
was
Man
it
cave or
oh
something.
the man cave, yeah. So there's another one, I think it's called Man Up. But more and more supportive spaces are coming up for our
So
men.
important.
And it is important because it is our
Seeing a
men
lot of
that
suicide
that
and
have
yeah,
a higher suicide rate, which I think has been a long-standing thing.
yeah,
Especially as, men are here to provide, right?
yeah.
Provide for their families. And when that's a struggle, that becomes an unbearable kind of burden to hold for them.
And I think a lot of men, this is what I find in my work, is they're in relationships that they're not being fulfilled
Mm,
and they're just providing, 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 providing.
yeah.
And they're like,
What
oh,
for? Yeah.
well, they're just drained
Yeah.
because they're not getting anything in return.
Hmm.
And it's always like a lot of women think that, men should just provide for women. But actually, women should provide in other ways. Maybe if they can't so much financially, because obviously men do earn more, and that's fine. But there's other ways to provide for in a relationship.
Mm,
And there's a lot of people that battle against each other. So there's a lack of communication. Then there's you've done this, you've said that, you da 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 da, and it's yeah.
mm,
So I do feel that men probably find it harder to open because it's always like thrown back in their face.
yeah. Well, I even think about when in the early days of mine and Adam's relationship, I was the breadwinner. Like I earned
Mm,
more than him. And actually, I resented him
mm,
for not earning more. And I was like,
yeah,
but that's a choice I made. I went into this eyes wide open.
yeah,
And obviously the tables have turned a little bit since I've like left my six-figure salary and we're
yeah,
now both business owners. So
yeah,
there's a bit more of a level playing field. And actually it's really nice to sort of me not have that like almost upper hand. Not that I ever
yeah,
felt like it was, but for me to actually take a step back and let him go, that needs happen, that needs to be fixed in the house. Oh, I'm going to pay for it. And
yeah.
it's like normally it would have been automatically
You just do
assumed I would
it.
have paid for it. I'd have paid for the holidays. And now there's definitely that more balance.
You would have
come
been
in.
very much more in your masculine
Oh,
then,
so
though.
much
So
more
now where you've
masculine,
stepped
yeah.
more into your feminine role,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's allowed him
yeah,
to step up and
yeah,
yeah, no, it's
it's opened that space, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's really fascinating. And so you've recently fallen in love, which is
Indeed.
another reason you got this lovely glow about you. Um,
Everyone keeps saying it. They're like, you are just like vibing in love. And I'm like, yeah.
and
Lovely.
I think I've known you to have some um
Situations.
interests, yeah, along the way, but never anything that felt like it was a relationship.
No.
And I've seen you work on yourself in the sense of like your physical, starting again, your physical, like you're in the best shape of your life. And I can remember first meeting you and being obsessed with your peachy bum for some reason.
Everyone used to tell me, didn't they?
I can't believe I
I
just
think you should
admitted
grab
that.
it. Wait, it's not, that makes you feel
It's one of
better.
them bums you want to grab, but it's probably inappropriate to mention it. But you are in the best shape of your life. So,
Yeah, I feel good.
and you've come into this relationship, which is like, dare I say it, feels like it's perfect.
Yeah.
So, what, what are the things, if you were to look back and think, oh, this was all part of the coming together
Oh,
now?
everything. Everything. I was having this conversation with my friend last night actually, and she was like, this is why we had all those lessons. But I've never been somebody to play in victim mode of like, why has this happened to me?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, the last proper relationship I was in was, we went through a lot, like miscarriages, one after the other.
Mm.
And I was never in that victim mode of, can't believe this has happened to me. I
Mm.
just got on with it. But then obviously once that had all ended, that was a big breaking point. But I remember just being like, I need to just not be with anyone. I need to just, I don't know why, I just had this calling of, I need to just be on my own. I
Mm.
need to live life. And I think where that anxiety used to come up when I was younger of, what am I doing? I'm not doing enough. If I died, would I feel like I've lived a fulfilling life? No.
Mm.
No, I
Mm.
don't. Just fulfilling my own needs. I used to be a massive people pleaser. Just really taking that ownership of actually, this is my life and I'm taking responsibility for it. And even that continues and continues in terms of like your boundaries and the people that you surround yourself with. So I do feel like the more you clean up your life in every aspect,
Mm.
lifestyle, people, what you're listening to, what you're reading, what you're eating, everything plays a part.
Mm. Well, I'm very happy that you found happiness, and I know
Yeah.
you've enjoyed the journey to an extent as well.
Oh, good, yeah.
So that's the best
I wouldn't,
testament.
yeah, and I wouldn't have the business I've got if I didn't,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, on what you're consuming, I have a bone to pick with you because you've been banging on to me about bloody Vikings
I love the
for
Vikings.
years. And I finally went down that rabbit hole, I think, coming out of
Obsessed.
Christmas, and I've just finished all six
I
seasons.
love
I
it.
must have devoured it in less than 2 months. And I was like, that's a bloody Amy that told me I must watch bloody Vikings. So I'm
They're
glad it's
good.
finished.
I'm
And
glad it's
I'm
finished.
glad it's
Really?
finished.
Oh, fun.
Oh, no, I was slightly grieving, but I thought it was a nice ending.
Yeah.
I'm glad those that, didn't make it, didn't make it. And I'm glad.
But you know, there's not going to be any more.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, thank God for that. It
No
left me
more.
hanging. When you finish this amazing long journey on these series, and then they leave you like there was
Cliffhanger.
no closure.
Mm,
Felt like there was closure. So
yeah,
thanks for
it's
that.
good. It's good.
And no more recommendations though, please. We're going into spring, and I said to Adam, no more TV because I don't watch a lot of TV. Yet this winter, I don't know what it was. I just really went into needing my little Netflix time. And
It's interesting though, because I'm the same and I don't watch normal TV or anything. But I have realised that where we're so busy throughout the day and we're doing what we're doing,
mm,
you do need that, I want to say shit
yeah,
bit to come to switch off.
yeah, yeah.
Because otherwise I'll lay in bed and I'll be researching and I'll be looking at things.
Oh
And I'm
God, yeah.
like, no, just
Yeah.
It allows me to just stop.
Yeah.
So if I'm,
Permission to watch Vikings if you
it
want
is,
to.
yeah. And it doesn't, like you say, it's not every day,
No.
but like when I go to Chris's, we'll watch a series. We're watching
Yeah.
Narcos at the
Oh,
moment, so
yeah. Yeah.
now it's like, yeah, you're punta all the time. You're like, hey, gringo. It's funny.
Ah, well, it's been wonderful to have this conversation with you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming. How can people like connect with you, or what have you got coming up in business? Because I know you've got some retreats coming up and
Yeah, so next
exciting things.
month I have on the 29th, which is the day before Mother's Day, a Your Inner Peace, Your Inner Essence, sorry, which is 2.5 hours, just helping women to again come into their heart space. Just take time to reflect on yourself. It's very gentle and easy in
Mm,
terms of like just allowing that space instead of anything being forceful. It's like cacao, a little bit of movement, some sound, and some reflective
mm.
writing. And
Oh,
it's like
stories.
beautiful space as well.
Mm. And that's in Kent, right?
Yeah, it's in Ashford, on the outskirts of Ashford, like Pluckley way. Once a month I'm doing a sunrise start.
Oh, I want to come to the next one, but I don't think I can.
It's on Monday,
Oh,
5:30.
oh, was it?
Yeah,
Oh, next Monday.
this Monday coming.
Oh, I thought it was a Thursday.
No, always a
Okay.
Monday.
Okay, that's good.
Every first Monday of the month.
Okay, I think I can do that then.
Yeah, so it will always be
At what
different.
time? You
5:30.
sure it needs to be that early?
No.
Yeah, I feel the same, Boo.
Um, Reiki Share Tuesday, which I'm going to do once a month. I'm just creating, yeah, lots of different things
Oh,
really.
I love it. And so how can people get hold of you? Is Instagram the best place or?
Instagram and Facebook, I've got the Path to Embodiment pages. And then on Facebook, I've just got Amy Mills.
I will ensure that the links to that are in the show notes.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
coming.
having me.
We're gonna go for lunch now. Take care, guys. See you next week. Cute little giggle.